George, we're also going to talk a little bit about your television history, and I know that you were still living in Arizona, but you did a lot of television work, and most of it was on the West Coast.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I used to live in Tempe, of course, and was the secretary of the Local, and but I had to make a living, and so I went over to Hollywood to work out of Local 33. That was quite an adventure. Every day was a different place, pretty much. I was down pretty low on the list, so I got some of the crummy jobs to start with, but I got up, worked up to the one thing that I remember early was working for the Lawrence Welk show, and I started out as a welder's assistant on the Lawrence Welk show, of all things. About 3 days into that, they changed me over to the electric shop. We're building chandeliers, electric. In fact, if you watch the Lawrence Welk reruns, to this day you can see the chandeliers, and I did the wiring on all those chandeliers. Then I went back to Phoenix and worked on Death Valley Days, the last 3 episodes of Death Valley Days, and the guy that's the host on that is, guess who? Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
And I was a set decorator on that with Webb Aerosmith. And so at lunchtime, they were shooting out at the Salt River one day, and I was fairly close to that. We're picking up stuff at Apache Junction or someplace for the next show in the studio there at the Apache Land Studios. So I just got out there. Conveniently at lunchtime, I was driving the company car, and so I could get something to eat. And so I got there, and Pee Wee and Hutch were camera grips, and they had a dolly track set up along the edge of the river. The Salt River running in the summer runs about 2 feet deep or 3 feet deep at the deepest part. So Reagan was coming down the river with his horse along the edge, and the dolly was following him. And then he'd get close to the camera, and the horse reared up a little bit and splashed water on the camera, and they had to stop and wipe the camera down, and they did retakes. They did it again, and then the third time they did it, Reagan splashed the crew on purpose because it was about 110 degrees. But they kind of got annoyed with it. So when I got out there, Hutch and Pee Wee came over and said, "We're going to get Reagan at lunchtime. Come with us." And I didn't know what they were going to do. So just when he was swinging down off his horse, we grabbed him by the legs and body and threw him right in the river. So we didn't know he was going to be the president.
No one did.
He laughed. He was good. He was very good, very amicable. And but wardrobe went nuts because it was their only outfit. It was the only thing the wardrobe had. So it was soaking wet, and his hat was slowing down the river. And everybody was laughing. So we got his hat back, and he stripped down to his boxer shorts, and we sat down and ate lunch. Spread his clothes out on the rocks. By the time we were done, the clothes were all dry, and he got dressed, and we went on with the shoot. But anyway, that was my story on them.
That's the wonderful thing about Arizona. Everybody lives in a dryer in the summertime, at least.
Exactly, yeah.
So your next TV project was?
Then let's see. I'm just trying to remember some of these. I just worked on ABC, The Dating Game. I was writing questions on The Dating Game. Love on the Rooftop.
They needed a stagehand to write questions on The Dating Game?
I was
were you an expert?
I was a prop man, and I was just standing, with nothing to do during the shoot. So somebody got sick or got up and left their seat, and so they waved at me to sit down at the timer seat. So I did timing, and then they were asking. They kind of ran out of ideas for questions. They said, "What do you think we should?" So I got some of these crazy questions. What do you ask newlyweds? And so I started writing questions for that thing. But I got paid IA wages for that, and went to work as a prop man. The Roger Miller Show. I did lighting on that, and also the 3 Andy Williams Christmas shows, which were quite memorable for me. I liked that a lot. Meeting the family, and Roy Rogers and Trigger, and the Art Linklater's House Party at CBS. So I worked for all 3 networks. Originally, the first call I got there was at KTLA as a scenic artist, and I worked redesigning the Jack LaLanne and Regis Philbin sets. Jack LaLanne, who just passed away.
I should mention for our younger viewers out there that yes, way back then, last century, there were really basically three networks. There was some public TV at the time, but basically there were three networks, and that's all the choice you had.